Hey there, fellow parents. Welcome to the Real Life of Parenting podcast, where we're all about embracing the chaos, sharing the laughter, and navigating the roller coaster ride of parenthood. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jenna.
And together, we're your co-pilots on this adventure.
Each episode will dive into the highs and the lows and the hilariously unpredictable moments that make parenting the wild journey it is.
So get ready for real stories, genuine conversations, and a few parenting hacks along the way. Whether you're dealing with diaper disasters or celebrating those small victories, we've got your back.
So buckle up, hit play, and let's embark on this parenting odyssey together. This is The Real Life of Parenting, where every episode is a reminder that you are not alone in the beautiful chaos of raising little ones.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Life of Parenting podcast. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jenna.
And today we have a special guest, Shari. She's a certified mental wellness coach, as well as an empty nest coach, and the author of the book, Nobody Told Me It'd Be This Hard, Navigating Life with Adult Kids. So Shari, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe where you're from and your kids.
Yeah, I am. I live in the upper Midwest. I live in southern Wisconsin. I'm married for, believe it or not, I can't believe it. I got married at 12. No, my husband and I have been together for actually 35 years. And
Wow.
we have two amazing kids, a 29-year-old son, Ben, who lives in Minneapolis, and a 26-year-old daughter, Abby. And I changed their names in the book. I don't want them to get mad at me because I use their names. But Abby she just moved from St. Louis, where she went to grad school, to Denver, living her dream now. She's very excited. As I mentioned earlier, my kids are both adopted. And so I've had different experience than a lot of people. But all of it has helped me to grow into the person, that we're all meant to become as we get older. The journey of the stage you're in now obviously is hard, but every stage has its good and its negative, right? And it's just it's like a roller coaster. And I remember when my kids were your ages, I remember thinking every 18 months was good, and 2.5 was good, and 3.5 was good. And then before you know it, they're in school. And it seems like you're so crazy busy. And people will say to me, what's one piece of advice you can give to moms of younger kids to kind of prepare them? And my biggest piece of advice is don't over involve your kids in activities, because your life is crazy enough as it is. And I mean, you guys have kids so close in age, it's going to be nonstop. But to just let them pick one activity per, season. We struggled with that because you want them to do things that you didn't have the opportunity to do. But you look back and you look at the hard times, and obviously you guys have been informed about teenage years because you were teenagers. And, it's like all of it comes around, and as hard as it is, it's like you see them where my kids are right now. My daughter at 26 is the best. She's this amazing human, and I feel so grateful. But my book came out of my emotions, my struggles with letting them leave. And my daughter my son went to college close. He was only 20 minutes away. So literally we had dinner every Friday night. He loved it because we paid. So it was our time to see him. But you don't mind that, right? Because you want to see him. My daughter couldn't wait to escape the cold, and she ended up in Southern California for 3 years. And as hard as that was, I saw her grow and mature and have to become independent. And I don't know what I would have done without a cell phone, because when I was a kid, I don't know how my parents, honestly, you had to call collect, you know what I mean? It's it's nuts.
You're just gone.
Yeah. So anyway, she went out there. She played lacrosse in high school, and she got a scholarship to go to a smaller school out there. And we took a trip one year, and she thought the beach, I think in her mind it was going to be always the beach. And no, you might live like 40 minutes from the beach, but it takes you like 2 hours to get there and it doesn't really fit into your schedule. So she was out there 3 years and then she transferred to back to the Midwest, closer, still like 5 hours away. But I just gradually saw her like she graduated in 2021 and in the midst of a pandemic, as you guys, I mean, it was hard. Everything was online,
Mhm.
it was just totally different. But she managed, she made all these decisions. She like, and not that my son didn't, he was in the workforce at the time, but I don't know. It's just as a mom, you want to be there for them, but you have to like um, use the term cut the cord because your goal is to raise your kids up to go take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And regardless if they stay close or go far away, we can't really tell them what to do anymore. We can give them advice when they ask for it. But if you remember your own parents, I mean, you didn't really want to talk to them and tell them everything you were doing.
No,
So,
you want your independence.
Yeah.
yeah. So I just try to
Yeah.
give people the perspective. The same with like texting. Like people want instant, like it's so instantaneous to get a text. And if you don't hear from your child immediately, people panic. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that they're like off doing their own thing and not just focusing on their phone because the phone is so addictive, right?
Mhm.
It's a major addiction and a major problem. But I feel like through my son going closer to college helped me in the transition with my daughter. So my daughter and she was not a really fun teenager at all. She was so independent. Um, and because I came from a very codependent family, it was harder for me with my own emotions. And so the way I dealt with them is I wrote. I just journaled. I journaled. And one day I'm looking through my journal and I'm like, man, this is kind of cool. I think I could write a book. It was never on my radar. I never, ever thought I would write a book. Um, my main purpose is just to help people and not, I mean, it'd be great to make a lot of money, but you know what? The odds are slim and I'm okay with that because I just want to be able to, even if it helps one person, which I've already been in contact with people who have told me it has, and they're passing it on to other people. And it's just to let people know it's never too early to think about it because if you let
Mhm.
it go and you keep pushing it off, the closer it gets, the harder it's going to get emotionally and obviously financially to send our kid. Not every kid goes to college, but there's such huge student loan debt now. And I didn't want my kids to end up with what I had. I took out loans. I was stupid. I had parties on my student loans. I went and bought a new wardrobe. I mean, it was stupid. And my husband and I couldn't get married till we paid off my loans. But you know what? I learned, and from what I had experienced, I didn't want my kids to have to do that. And I now have my kids thanking me because they have friends who have huge debt and they don't. They can start their life with their own debt because they're paying for and we helped. Obviously, we paid for their tuition and
Yeah.
we helped with other things, but they were responsible for they paid their own housing there after they got out of the dorms. And then the same with their meal plan. When they were in the dorms, we paid for that. When they left, that was on them. If they needed help, of course you're there to help them, my daughter had to buy a new vehicle. We co-signed a loan. We've never had to make a payment on it. She's always done it. It's just so educating your kids on finances before they get to high school, even because I don't know about schools in Canada, but here in the US, like they don't teach any of the normal like things that we need to survive. They
It's
used to have like
It's
home
pretty similar
economics.
here as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like why are we focusing on teach it sounds terrible, but there's a lot of classes even in college I took that I've never used since college,
I've
unless you
always said
special.
that with college. Like, first, like any sort of general arts, like you're just taking a general like slosh of courses, and you're like, I was like, if you're a mature student, you want to go back to school and you know exactly what you want. Why do you need to take,
Right.
I don't know, whatever science when you're like, I don't want to do that. I want to maybe go into human resources and
Yep.
learn this. I don't need to no,
Yeah.
I don't need this, but they make you take it anyways. They just cost money,
Yeah.
waste time.
Mm-hmm.
They built a new school in the area where I live, and they are now starting to focus on the trades, because
Mm-hmm.
that's an overlooked profession. And I think my son's been out of high school over 10 years now, and it was all just talk about four-year colleges. Even if you just talked about like a technical college, it was talked down. And I'm like, what does that say to kids that don't have
Yeah.
that? Not everybody's meant to go to college. And I have so many friends who haven't gone to college that are very successful. You know, a lot of kids nowadays are entrepreneurial. And if I would have even known what entrepreneurship was, I would never have gone. And I thought I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be a nurse. And then I realized I can't stand the sight of blood. Why would I do that? And then the pandemic hit. I
Yeah.
could not imagine being a nurse. The same with being a teacher. I mean, I think those are the hardest professions nowadays, anything in medical or education. But being able to like create something where I was passionate about it, you know, and being able to
Mm-hmm.
help people. And I feel like now there's so many more opportunities for younger people to express themselves. And I think since the pandemic, they've really realized, because they've been able to work from home more, that they want more flexibility and freedom. And um, that's where my son had some trouble, because he's an engineer and he's worked for the same company since 2018. And it just got to the point where he just didn't feel like he was respected. He felt like he had nobody really appreciated his opinions. He had no flexibility. He was working like 12 to 15 hours a day. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
done. So he left. And as his parents were like, why did you get another job? But you know what? It's not about us, it's about him. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when I was in his situation, when I was that age, my parents tried to tell me everything I should do. And little did they know I didn't really want to do any of the things that you want to be respected and you deserve respect. And so, enjoy the time with your littles. They're a handful. And I, whenever I see moms out, I always compliment them, because it's like, I remember that time
Mm-hmm.
seemed like it sucked, but it does go really, really fast. And yeah. So sorry, I ramble. I get passionate about
That's
this.
that's okay. But we definitely understand a few of the things that you said, even though we're a ways away. But
Yeah.
I mean, how do you go from, I guess, living, your first 20 years with your kids and you're telling them everything what to do, and then all of a sudden one day they're gone, and you just have to hope that you raise them good. Even
Yep.
if you raise them good, there's always a chance that they could just turn out wrong.
Right.
I saw this one quote, and it was like, your parents are always going to love your kid. Like, there's some mom out there who loves their son who's on death row, but it's like, you just hope that they are, you know, giving a good example for the rest of the world.
Yep.
It
Yep.
sounds like your kids are doing really good.
Well, and it all comes with challenges, different types of challenges and family dynamics. And, I really
Yep.
realized, and it's hard when your kids are younger, because it's like you have so many things. And nowadays, I just watched this thing. It's like, it makes me sad, because I feel like, how did my husband and I survive the stuff we did? And nowadays, I feel like there's so many risks, you know what I mean, out in the world.
Yep.
And a lot of it's the media, obviously, right? We hear, I can't even watch TV anymore without getting depressed. But I feel like kids sometimes, and this is not a negative thing, but I feel like sometimes they have to be bubble wrapped, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, against the world. And I'm like, how did our parents handle it with us? Like, we could just go play for hours and they would never know where we were. We could ride our bike. And I mean, I grew up in a neighborhood where somebody rang a bell at 6 o'clock at night, and we all knew to go home. And I'm like, how do they do it now? And what's an age? Like, my
Yeah.
kids didn't get cell phones till they were in late middle school. And I thought that was early. And now they're doing it. You see kids like playing on cell phones all the time. And I get it, but yet it makes me
It's
sad too, because
it
there's
is
so many other
wild.
things. Yeah. Like outside, just
Mhm.
play outside and enjoy nature.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of overdependence on phones these days. I think a little too much, but at the same time, it's the changing times, right? So
No, it's
it's always the
crazy.
newest generation is always the worst generation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, there's a lot of overemphasis on mental health and a
Yep.
lot of that lately, and there is some of that, but there is sometimes a little pushing too much for the children too.
Yep. Yep.
Trying to make I don't know, make it happen more than it needs to happen kind of thing.
Is that
Mhm.
a dog? What kind of
That
is
It
is
that?
the
is.
dog. He's in almost every single one of our episodes. He just
What
hangs out on the couch.
what kind of dog? Because I have a black dog.
He's a boxer lab.
Look at hi.
Yeah, he just
Oh my
hangs out.
god.
Mickey?
Mhm.
No?
I
Hey,
have.
Okay.
Mickey.
How much does he weigh?
He's about 65
65, 70?
pounds. Yeah,
That's
65 to 70 pounds.
is he like is he black and white?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my dog,
Truman?
I have a mix. My dog Luna, she's almost 3. She's about 65 pounds, and
Okay.
she's a mix of like a pit bull and a border collie and a cattle dog. Uh,
Okay.
talk about a challenging breed, like three
Yeah.
breeds that are like always wanting to be busy all the time. It's
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, he has his little bursts of energy for sure.
Yeah. He's
How old
pretty
is
pretty
he?
good.
He's gonna be 7 at the end of the
6 or
year.
7, something like
Yeah,
that.
something like that.
Oh,
Definitely not
maybe.
slowing down, just getting gray.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so I love Luna's not quite a cuddler yet. You know, she kind of needs her space, but that's I love.
Yeah.
That's what I nurture now. My kids are gone, so I get to nurture my son.
That's it. There you go.
That's the
Yeah.
kid now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Would you be able to elaborate on how your experience as a wellness coach informs your approach to empty nest coaching?
My biggest thing is to like educate parents, and it is specifically moms, because like sometimes dads just don't want to talk about this. And
No, we're
maybe you're
fine. We're just
different.
like
Maybe
whatever.
some my own
Brain's turned
husband.
off.
Yeah, and I think it's like so there's so much mental like so many things that you need to focus on to keep your mental, I like to call it mental wellness, in a good place as you enter this stage, because it is really, I'm in some Facebook groups for empty nesters, and it makes me sad because no matter what you tell them, they're so like sad because their kids have left home. And my goal is just to say, this is your time to focus on you. I mean, you're always there for your kids. You're never going to
Mhm.
stop being their mom, but you kind of go from being their mom, even though you're still their mom, to more of a mentor, right? And it's a hard transition because you've had control of them. And then all of a sudden, like you had said, they disappear and you don't have control of them. And I guess and during the pandemic, a lot of my, not a lot, but a number of my friends had their kids move home due to mental health issues. And
Mhm.
they haven't left. And it's because they're fearful. And my goal is just to like help people to overcome the fear and to be able to find outlets that can help you to build, not only help other people, but build your own mental health in the process. And for me, that's exactly it. When I'm able to help somebody, it's helping me, right? It's like I'm giving to somebody, but it's helping me in the growth
Yeah.
that I need to achieve. And I have to say that over the last probably 2 years, it's been the biggest growth for me. And part of it was my daughter leaving to go far away. Um, and then having hers and my relationship just blossom. Like right now, honestly, she calls me all the time and it's awesome. But sometimes it's like, I gotta go. So it's a good thing. And I would never tell her she's bothering me. But I went from
Yeah.
at times like no conversation for 2 weeks, which was hard emotionally, to having her call me every day on the way home from work now that she's living somewhere that she's truly happy and wanted to be for a long time. And I love that. I mean, so now I tell people, if your kids want to go farther away, don't try to stop them, because you want them to be independent. If they want to stay and be your neighbor, that's awesome too. But sometimes it's like parents just try to tell their kids, don't go because I want you to stay. And that's, people had said that to me, like, how can you let your daughter go so far away to college? Well, she took care of everything. She got her scholarship. Whenever we had to fly, of course we paid for it, but she'd arrange for the flights. She'd arrange for the hotels. She did all the work. Where my son, like, for him, he did nothing. That's just a boy. I'm not all boys, but mine was like that.
Hmm.
And it was harder. So I just say, the book helped me process my emotions and then led to so I got certified just in the last year in mental wellness. And the reason I focused on that was because of my own struggles. And the biggest thing for me, which really made me think, like, our medical system is so messed up right now. Like, if I wanted to see a therapist, I called, it would have taken 8 months. 8 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I know there's such a shortage, they're leaving. I get it. But I thought, what am I going to do? So I started working on myself and stumbled upon this certification and partnered with a company that I could be educated through that helped me to improve my own mental health issues. But it takes daily work. It's not like a one and done. And I think so many people, they just think they only have an option. You have to see a therapist, which isn't bad, but they usually give you techniques,
Hmm.
but they honestly don't really, they might not know exactly what you're feeling, which I can relate to because I've experienced it. And a lot of times they just prescribe medication. And so many people nowadays don't want to do that anymore. It's like there's so many other ways to improve not just your mental health, you need to improve your physical health to get to a good place. Because when you're not feeling good mentally or physically, vice versa, it's like if I'm feeling sick somewhere in my body, it's going to affect my mental health. And if my mental health is struggling, it's going to affect my physical health. So I just try to tell people, it can be really simple. If you just move your body, try to eat as healthy as you can, surround yourself with positive people, because again, I keep going back to the pandemic, but that kind of brought out
Yeah.
the worst in a lot of people. And I have family members. I love my family members, but I've had to say, I don't want to talk about this. I even
Hmm.
friends, you have to take care of your own personal health and wellness by putting up boundaries of what you will accept, because and being the parents of 2 young kids, I mean, you need to be in your best place, really, even though you're probably
Yeah.
exhausted all the time.
We've definitely discussed about that before. You got to take care of yourself so that you can be the best mom
Yeah.
or dad that you can be, right?
Yeah.
Even the best person you can be, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With mental wellness, what are some common things that you see with people, the way it affects people? And maybe what are some common tips that would help someone through any sort of issues
Well,
with mental
for
wellness?
me, I have made, and I'm open to talking to anybody, but I've really tried to focus on women because there's so many hormonal issues involved, which again,
Hmm.
so what I've learned in the last couple of years is aligning. You've all heard of gut health, right? Like, gut health is key. And if you're in, I don't know if you've heard the term microbiome. I mean, a lot of people hadn't heard of that. And basically that's our second brain and it's in our gut. And I'd never heard about this. I actually studied nutrition 10 years ago, started coming out, but just in the last 2 years, it's really become prominent. And there's something in our body called the axis, which is a nerve that connects the brain, the heart, and the gut. And when that's out of alignment, so much can happen, so much can go wrong. And what this entails is just putting the right things into your body and being aware of and it's not just about food. I never was until 2 years ago. I was always like, I can get everything I need from food. Well, it's hard to do that because we're so busy. We'd be cooking and going to the grocery store all the time. So for me, it's about building in supplements to help me to maintain
Yeah.
focus. I actually have never been diagnosed, but it's pretty obvious I'm ADD. I've always been like all over the place, could never stay focused. And to be able to have that mental focus and clarity and to align, my brain and my heart and my gut to being the best possible I can be, that helps me to feel productive. Because when you're, especially as a young mom with young kids, it's like it's hard to be productive when you're exhausted. And
Yeah.
now, I mean, you start a job. I mean, you have to be productive. It's gonna be hard, but you'll manage it, and your kids will be fine. But it's like being able to take the steps for yourself to, exercise, do what brings you passion. I'm really big into yoga, and meditation. And I don't know if you are familiar with meditation, but people think it's like this weird thing. It's not. It's just like shutting your body and just breathing, listening to music. And I do that like twice a day because it helps me to kind of embrace the moment, because we're so caught up in everything going around us that we never like enjoy right now.
And you
Um,
feel grounded.
yeah. And
Yeah.
that's huge, feeling grounded. And like you said earlier, like with your kids, they're going to grow up so fast. And I always try to tell people, don't focus so much on the future or the past, just focus on right now. And it's hard because there's so much negativity out there. We have to like just enjoy what we have right now. And I still think getting out in nature is huge. Um, just taking a walk. I'm sure you guys do that. It's just like go for a walk, enjoy, spend time with your family, turn off the TV, which my husband has the TV on too much for sports. And I'm like, I've got my own. That's a beauty, like, of having no kids at home. We're still in the same house. I have like the room I'm in is my son's old room. The other room, my daughter's room, is I call it my wellness studio, because it's a place I go where I can just focus on improving myself. Journaling is huge. Reading, not just, I mean, novels are great, but I think reading stuff that can help build your mindset, if you're in a bad place, and to just hear other people's stories, because everybody has a story to tell. And if we would just, I think if worldwide, if we would just listen to other people's stories, we would all be in a better place, because there's not one person who hasn't struggled or have something that of value that could help you or I, right? And that's what's helped me the most, is just to feel I'm not alone. And just like you guys are helping people who've experienced what you did with your son, I mean, that's like me. I'm helping people experiencing who are now going through what I went through with my kids, and to give them hope. And I think just having hope and a faith and a belief that, you can do it, and you have other people you can count on. And I also want people to know, like, I'm here for them. It's not like I'm a therapist. I'm like, well, you have to pay me this much an hour, and you have to be, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what it's like, because life can suck. I mean, we've all been there. We know how hard it is. And just to know that, like I said earlier, that I'm helping, if just one person, it makes it. And I'm sure for you guys, I mean, look what you went through. So when your second child came along, and your second child, I take it, everything was great, right?
It was completely the other side of the fence. Yeah. Like nothing, no big issues at all.
Yeah. Came out.
She was overterm, and she was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that was on your mind, right? Because you went through it once and you kind of
The whole time.
expected.
The whole
Yeah.
time. Absolutely the whole time. Yeah. Yeah.
That was kind of like me, my son, my kids were adopted, and he was difficult, but Abby, she was a piece of cake. But then she became a teenager, and then it was like, there's always something. But I can laugh about it now.
So yeah,
But I
ours
think,
is like Liam, like he's super, super like quiet. Both our kids are great, but like you can definitely tell the differences in personalities. Like he's super quiet, and then the other one is just like night and day
Scream
difference.
at the top of her lungs.
Yeah,
Just
scream like little pterodactyl, and it's just two
running
completely
around
different.
silly, just
Just
laughing.
being silly, like, fearless, absolutely fearless. The other one, not so much.
yeah, it's funny though. It's like my daughter was like that too. She would like my son, he's never really been a big risk taker, but my daughter has. And I still
Mhm.
remember she was little. She might have been, I don't know, she might have been a year. And we had a chair with like an ottoman, I don't know, like 2 feet away. And she like, I thought she was going to jump, but she like flung herself on it and then flipped off and got up laughing. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
And then she
it's like
became a
that
ski
sometimes.
racer. So it's
Yeah.
like,
She's jumped off of his, like, kind of like jumped off of just like the lower part of his bed before
Yeah.
onto like a teddy bear and like
Yeah.
thought that was
Oh,
like the
all the
most
time.
hilarious thing. You're like, okay.
The thing I don't understand is like sometimes they'll just like, especially Liam, where he'll just fully take himself out, run right into something hard, and get
yeah.
up, act like nothing happens. Later on, maybe he like just kind of brushes against something that hits his head, and he's like,
He
"Oh, it
just-
hurts!"
Yeah,
And
he
starts
just
going
loses
off
it.
and screaming his head off.
It's like, dude, I've seen you do worse, much worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how they're so different. But your kids are so close in age. Are they like super, I mean, do they get along really well because they're so close in age?
They had their moments before. They're getting a lot more close now. But like there was a big learning curve.
Yeah.
When she was first born, like he would always like just kind of tap her, hit her, or whatever. And we say, oh, you
Mhm.
know, like you can't hit her, you can't be like that with your sister. But then when she got a little bit older and more aware, like she started, I think, like, wasn't it like to poke at his eyes and stuff like that? And we're like, okay, you can't poke his eyes out. Like, it's just it's just like the little
yeah.
quirks, right? And like now, like whenever she gets mad for whatever reason, her first instinct is to just like grab behind her if he's behind her and like try and grab his hair. And she will just yank on it like you wouldn't even believe.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's pretty good for the most part. He still does hit every once in a while if he's like really frustrated with her. But for the most part, they're really good kids. We really can't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is their actual age difference?
13 months.
Oh, yeah, that's close. I
Yeah,
was thinking
so
that 3 kids, all three were 13 months apart. I was like, and they were all boys. She ended up with
Oh my
4 boys.
God.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I know. And now they're all adults, which is good. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they were both supposed to be August babies, but Liam was July and then the other one was August.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was
Keep
his
us-
weight when he was born?
He was 3 pounds 7 ounces.
Okay.
And then he had lost a bunch of weight within the first couple days where he went down to 2.9, I want to
Something
say.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, like he lost more than the
Normal.
normal, I think 10%
Yeah, that's what they're
that they
cut off
is like
as.
the cutoff, like the max weight that they want to like kind of see them lose. But he actually lost 12%,
13 or 14.
13. Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
So does he have, so he doesn't have asthma or anything now? He hasn't developed.
No, not that we've noticed. But yeah, like he seems completely fine now. Like we haven't had any ongoing issues with him
No.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Really?
It's pretty good now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I think this is awesome that you're both doing this. Like honestly, I'm jealous. I wish my husband.
It takes a
You're like, I'll
lot.
do my
It
thing.
does. It does
Yeah.
take a lot. And like we really never brought up, even like from like leaving the hospital and stuff like that. Like we really never talked about it until before we started our first episode of the podcast, to be
Yeah.
honest. And like we were remembering things that like we're like, holy, like yeah, we did that, or oh yeah,
Mhm.
do you remember this? Like it was quite the journey.
Yeah, because you kind of just like put it in the back of your mind and you just push through, and then you never really
And
we
then you
never
got
really decompressed, and then we
Yeah.
finally did, and
yeah,
That's
we're like,
awesome.
holy crap.
it's insane.
You could start a podcast with your husband. 35 years of marriage.
Oh,
How to keep it fresh, or how not to kill each
well,
other.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, he's like so old school. Like he doesn't do Facebook. He doesn't do, which is smart, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. I mean, but he's actually an executive coach. He left his the job he had after he graduated from college, he was there a long time. Like, it was his only company he worked for, and then they were bought out in 2017. He pretty much ran the company. It was a manufacturing company, and he stepped away. He said, it's not going to be the same. The culture's not going to be the same. I'm not going to make the money. And this is another benefit of being an empty nester and having the freedom is we just got back from Arizona last week. We came through Denver to visit my daughter for a couple days, but we have that freedom to do that now. And my parents never did anything like that. And I always put that on my bucket list. Like, I want to travel. I want to do things. I want to escape the dark winters of the upper Midwest and go somewhere where there's sun, because I really thrive. And when it's dark, January here we only had 4 days of sun and it was horrible. But going somewhere where there's sun for a couple weeks or a month, and still being able to like run our businesses, but then have the freedom. He golfs, I go hiking. And then that's why I'm glad my daughter's in Denver, because that's on our road home, so we can go stay with her. But a lot of people, they don't have that benefit or privilege like we've had. And I feel so grateful that we're able to just say, let's do 2 months this year. And we actually just got our passports renewed, and we haven't like traveled internationally since before the pandemic. So now it's like Canada is definitely on my bucket list, but I want to go to Europe. I want to do a river cruise in Europe.
Oh, that'd be nice. Yeah.
That'd be super nice.
Yeah.
My parents do the snowbird thing. So they go right down to Florida and sit in 6 months of the year. They're sitting in whatever little trailer park type thing down there, just soaking up the sun every day.
Yeah. And you just recently went on a trip. Where did you end up going?
That's when we were in Arizona. We went, this would be, the only year we didn't go down was 2022, because we did go to Florida that year. We just did a shortened version so we could spend time with my daughter. But starting in 2018, we've gone for 3 months, for 2 years. 2020, which was a blessing, was the first year we went for 4 months. We were in Fountain Hills, Arizona. And you'll laugh about this. Like, half the people that were in this condo complex were all from Canada. They all left. Like, in a matter of 24 hours, the whole complex emptied out because nobody knew what was going to happen. So we were blessed that they were threatening, like, oh, they're going to close the border of each state. Well, they never did. It was the biggest blessing because we could be outside and continuing to like hike and enjoy the sun while we're watching people wear masks. And we were like, really like, it was just weird. We were
not just
like,
trapped in your house.
Yeah. It was the weirdest thing, wasn't it? It's like,
it was.
Why are people walking way around me when I'm not even close to them at all? But
yeah.
Everyone looks at you disgusting, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like if you have like a dry throat or a cough or whatever, it's just like, holy smokes.
It's just allergies, I swear.
I know. So that's where we were. We went for I shouldn't say just a month. We went for a month and then went through Denver. And I love Colorado. I would love to move there. My husband, it's expensive everywhere. I don't think that'll ever happen. But yeah, my son is looking to buy a house and he can't afford it. Is it just like that in Canada too? Like,
Canada's worse.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive.
Yeah,
it's super bad right now for housing.
Yeah, the interest rates are
way up. They're not building houses. There's massive shortage for housing.
Yeah,
rent's crazy.
Rent's really crazy.
Here, before Trump was elected in 2016, it was so funny because my daughter graduated from high school in 2016, and I have friends who said, if he gets elected, we're moving to Canada. And since then, I've met so many people from Canada. No place is perfect.
Nope.
Every place has their issues. And I'm like, you just need to talk. I was just talking to a woman who was telling me about your healthcare. You guys pay out of your taxes. But she said it's kind of a pain because it's just like, I don't know. I don't remember what she said, but like certain things just aren't covered without approval or something. And it was just like,
yeah, you have to get like referred out usually by your family doctor. If you're one of the ones that does have a family doctor, there's a lot of people that
don't have family doctors. Yeah.
You were talking about a therapist where you were like earlier where you said, oh, you'd have to wait like 8 months for a therapist. That's pretty commonplace for almost any specialist here.
Yeah, or
It's-
even any pediatric specialist, stuff like that. If you need like extra specialists for your kids, like it's at least 8-9 months of a waiting list.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
So the
Yeah.
waits are crazy here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a doc. I see a doctor that's, I don't know if you guys have, but I think this woman I talked to said they don't have anything like that, but I see a doctor that's direct primary care who is independent. Do they not allow that in Canada? Because she it's like having her own business. She's like private practice. So we pay it's like a subscription. You pay like a monthly, but you have direct access. So for me, I can message her through her portal and she'll respond like within 2 hours. If I did a big clinic, it could be like days. Yeah.
If they have it here, it's not very well known.
It's
but
just
yeah, like
I've never heard of that.
You call your family doctor if they can get you in, and then if not, you just go to the hospital or a clinic and
like if it's like
if it's minor, you go to the clinic, and then if it's anything else, you just go and sit in the emergency room for 12 hours and hope
even now, like with like when COVID had hit and stuff like that, like a lot of our walk-in clinics are not walk-in clinics anymore. Like they're not clinics at all. So like I see a lot of people coming in or going in to like the emergencies with minor issues, and it's crazy.
Yeah, we have a lot of broken systems right now.
Very.
Math, right?
So what made you choose to want to be a wellness coach?
So from the time, I would say because of my trauma growing up, my parents were always sick. My dad had heart disease, had his first heart attack at 40. I was 10, proceeded to have 3 more heart attacks before he died almost 20 years ago. My mom, I was 18 when she was first diagnosed with breast cancer on my 18th birthday, which you can imagine how that was. On top of that, my dad was an alcoholic. Very, I've become more open about talking about this, verbally and emotionally abusive alcoholic. So I knew I didn't want my kids to be raised like that. I wanted to educate people on the importance of being proactive with your own health and wellness. And as we talked about earlier, the lack of quality healthcare nowadays, I mean, you need to be proactive for yourself. My mom passed away 12 years ago of metastatic breast cancer. I was her caregiver. 2 kids still in school, 7th grader and a 10th grader. After she passed, I knew I needed to do something more. So it took me taking my son to college and seeing a picture of myself and how overweight I was and how I needed to make changes. So that was the beginning of my journey. And in the next year, I was able to lose 70 pounds. I always had high cholesterol, and there were just risk factors. I was told at one time that if I didn't go on a high cholesterol medication, I was probably just going to drop dead. That's a nice thing to hear when you're only in your 40s.
Yeah.
It was like, so anyway, that's just the short of it. I knew I had a lot of risk factors, and I wanted to make a change. And through my change, I was able to, never on my radar, to run half marathons and do some triathlons, which I'm not doing anymore. I did it and I'm happy and I'm done. But it was a pretty big accomplishment to be able to do something like that when you never really imagined yourself doing it, and to show people that anything is possible. And to just be able to just your body better than anybody else, and to trust your own instincts as opposed to having a stranger tell you what they think you should do. There's a time and a place for medicine, like if you break an arm or a leg or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
But every day I just mainly do holistic. I do chiropractic, I do massage, I do acupuncture. There's so many things if people are just willing to make the investment. And my biggest thing is telling people your health is an investment, not an expense. And you invest in your car, your house, your education, but nobody thinks about their body. They just go and buy all this crap. And back in the early days when I was first starting this journey, I would almost have to stop myself from yelling at people in grocery stores by all the junk they're buying. Because I used to be like that. The wake up call for me was when I would go to Target and I would go to Starbucks. I'd buy like a mocha or I'd buy a Frappuccino when I walked in the door, and I'd shop and I'd buy junk I didn't need. And then I'd buy another one as I'm leaving. And the amount of sugar I was putting into my body, people just don't realize those drinks are just full of sugar.
Yeah.
And
Pretty so delicious, but full of sugar.
They're so expensive. I mean, my husband went to the Starbucks drive-thru on our trip, and for just a coffee, he paid $5. Just a coffee.
They got a more premium down there.
Insane.
I think ours is around $3 for like a small one, but something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I help people like make healthier choices. I recommend things that have worked for me, and I'll never go back. Like I made choices to like stop dairy, limit my gluten intake. I don't personally, it's just me. I don't do red meat anymore just because I never realized why I felt so bad after I ate red meat, and now I don't, and it's fine. I don't eat ice cream. People say, don't you miss it? I'm like, no, because it made me feel terrible. Why would I go back to something? So when your life changes, just like with anything, like why would you want to go back to the way it was before? So again, it's just giving people the options, the solutions, what's worked for me, what's worked for others, just being able to offer insight. And this was another thing, and you might have heard this, like doctors, when they go to medical school, they only get like 20 hours of training on nutrition. So I have more training than doctor, but yet they still say they can recommend. And I'm like, okay, I mean, if you send a nutritionist, that's one thing, but you know what I mean? It's like, so no, you don't have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. You can certificate in something and still help people.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
Not make as much money, but you know.
Yeah, I think mindset changes, I think, is very important. And I found for me personally, like making big changes is always hard and it's unsustainable. And it's always it's like I used to be pretty heavy too, so I lost a bit of weight. But I found like once I started making the small changes and I'd notice a little difference, and I'd make another small change, and it was the small changes that were adding up, and it eventually became a big change. But those small changes were what kind of started making me feel a little better.
But it takes consistency. It takes consistency.
It's easier to be consistent with like little changes at a time, right? Rather than like you're like, oh, I'm going to change my entire lifestyle today, you know, and then 2 days later you're, I don't know, halfway through a chocolate cake and wondering why you're not working right.
But you know, and I tell people like we're human and we all fall off the wagon every now and then, right? It's okay to cheat every now and then, just as long as it's not all the time. And it's just, I have people saying to me like, well, I tried that for 3 days. And I'm like 3 days does not make a change perfect. It's going to have to be longer term. At least I always tell people at least like a month, but I never give people too much because there's too much. It's overwhelming. Like if you tell people, and I have to admit, I used to like say, oh, here's a shopping list. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with small changes, like take a walk around the block, you know, read a book, get up an hour earlier and start your day with intention of how you want to live your day better. Journal what you want to change, you know, it's just small things.
I saw this thing like a long time ago and it kind of stuck with me. And I don't know how accurate it is, but they called it basically the rule of 3. So after 3 days of making a change, you kind of get used to it. 3 weeks, it becomes a habit. And then after 3 months, it becomes a lifestyle.
Yep.
So it really takes a long time for something to really click in your head and actually become tangible.
Well, and then when you start seeing those changes, when you start noticing them on yourself, then you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Absolutely.
stick with stuff, and it can be
It
hard to stay
is.
motivated. I guess that would be something hard for you to kind of express to someone else, eh?
Yeah, it's frustrating to see people struggle, but yet when they hit the point where there's like a switch that turns in your head, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I recently had something myself I was struggling with, and um, fortunately, I was able to find. It's funny. I mean, you can go to Google now. It's like you don't even have to go to college. You can go to Google University. but, but I found this gentleman on YouTube who has a YouTube channel, and he was basically what he was talking about was something I'd been experiencing. And it's funny because it's like just trying the recommendations he was making that he recommended, even though he's not a doctor and he doesn't claim to be, it's made a difference for me. And it's just it again, it's just like you said, that rule of three. Just start small and just keep at it. And any change is hard. I mean, just trying to even remember. Obviously, you guys have toddlers, so at the end of the day, it's probably hard to remember what you did that morning. But it's like you have to like just keep pushing yourself to. And
Mhm.
honestly, it's going to make a difference in your kid's life because my kids now are telling me things that like happened 10 or 12 years ago that they're proud of me. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my kids are telling me they're proud of me. You don't think they notice, but they really do. And that's why parenting is so,
That's
there's just so
awesome.
much, not to get off track now, but like you hear stories of like parents that don't hold their kids accountable for their own actions. And that's what's like, I mean, we
Hmm.
all want to defend our kids, but if my kid does something wrong, I'm not going to like, until I know the whole story, I'm not going to like defend them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
have them be accountable for whatever they did.
Yep.
Not be one of the ones that's like, my kid can do no wrong. They definitely were the right ones here.
Well, that's just it. And there's just
Yeah.
so much like, there's just so much people just think, what is the word I'm thinking of? Like, people just think they're owed something, you know? And we all have
Hmm.
to work hard and we all, I don't know. I just think setting an example for your kids in a positive light. And because I grew up, I mean, my parents were wonderful, but they didn't know, right? And I just didn't want my kids to have the same experience that I
Yeah.
did. And did I make mistakes? Oh yeah. I mean, we all, you always do or say
Everybody
something.
does.
Hmm.
What the
We're
heck did
only
I just
human.
say?
Yeah, we're only human.
Yep, yep. So anyway, I hope I answered your. I feel like I was all over the place. You guys are really easy to talk to.
No, that's
We like listening. We
yeah,
like talking.
we definitely love listening to all your insights and whatnot. But
It's fun to learn.
yeah, and what led you to become an author of your book?
I guess it was just just writing my emotions down and
Hmm.
realizing I just wanted to. I never thought. So it's funny. It was about 2 years ago when I was first contemplating it, and I actually ran across somebody who was a writing coach. And as it turned out, she was fine. We ended up parting ways after like 6 months just because personality wise, we just weren't clicking. But she had given me the name of an editor, and I didn't think I really needed an editor. Well, you really do because you can't catch everything, and you can write in whatever style you write, but you're between punctuation and sentence structure and development. So I found this woman and she's been amazing. She's become my friend. She went above and beyond. She wanted this so badly for me. And it was last fall and you question yourself. You're like, you kind of feel like a imposter, imposter syndrome. Like, what the heck? But
Hmm.
when you see it, and I published you Amazon, so I mean that's still important. I know. I always think like so many people make you feel like you should go the traditional route, which is a lot harder to get. You have to send your transcript to or your manuscript to a publishing house, and it could sit there for years. Where this way, I just uploaded it, and it was published the same day. Um, it's had its highs and lows. I mean, Amazon, it's free, but you sometimes
Yeah.
get what you pay for. And I think maybe next time I would pay a little more and have somebody do it for me. Um, but I feel like putting myself out there, like you guys are like my 5th podcast I've been on. And if anything, it's given me confidence in myself, because I question, like, why would anybody want to interview me? But when I found these Facebook groups, I was like, why not? What do I have to lose? If nobody responds, whatever, I haven't lost anything. But I just feel like, and you guys are really laid back, and everybody else I've interviewed, but there are people out there that just want, like, they want it all in a structure. And I'm more of a conversation person, not just
We are too.
More go with the flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
It makes it easier.
Yeah. It kind of resonated with the if anyone listens, then that's good. But I mean, whatever. If no one listens, I guess.
It's still fun.
I ask you guys, I don't like shopping. I've never liked going to stores. It's overwhelming. Yeah, it's like,
I'm not much of a shopper. I just walk in the store and I look for exactly what I'm looking for and I get out.
In and out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. But
yeah,
I don't know about you.
Well, sometimes if I'm like out on my own with like groceries and stuff, I like to take my time a little bit.
Yeah.
Have a break from the kids and maybe a break from you as well, and take my time. But yeah, usually I'm pretty good. Like I'll stick to the list and get out.
Yeah, I like smaller shops, I like boutiques, and I don't know. I just think some stores are just too packed with stuff, and I'd rather support a small business. So I'll do that, but not usually. That would be like on vacation or something.
We got one more big question for you.
Okay.
What do you hope our listeners, will take away from our conversation today?
Well, for the ones who are embarking on the emptiness stage, just embrace it all. Just hold on to as many memories as you can and go with the flow, because it is a lot. And as they're letting their kids leave, just knowing that this is not the end, but it's the beginning. It's the beginning for their kids, but it's also the beginning for them, because you give up a lot when you have kids. And then for the younger ones, just, it's never too early to prepare. You're not going to be thinking about college, any of that, but just what your purpose in all this is. And your purpose is to raise up your kids to be responsible adults and to be able to go out in the world and take care of themselves. And then as far as like mental wellness, just know there's options and solutions. And yeah, I'm available for people just to talk too. I mean, I just want people to be in a good place, because when you struggle, you feel so alone, and don't like to feel like that. Like to know there's people, because it can really change somebody's whole perspective if they have somebody to share their story with that understands.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
We got like 2 quick little fun questions for you.
And
then
Not so serious questions, but fun ones.
Yeah.
If you were to win the lottery, what would you do?
I would donate it. Honestly, I know that sounds weird. I feel like I've had everything I've ever could have wanted in my life. Yeah, it'd be nice. I'd probably take some of it, maybe to pay off our mortgage, but I don't need fancy cars. I have the ability to travel. I really am an animal lover, and most of my animals have been rescued. I would probably donate it to a sanctuary, an animal sanctuary, or a rescue to help them.
That's
because there's so many unwanted that people just dispose of dogs so easily here.
Yes.
It's sad.
Yeah, he was actually, we rescued him. He was from Quebec. We got him.
The French land.
Yeah.
And then where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Hopefully a grandma. No. I'm too young to be a grandma. It's funny. For me, it's just about being in a good place mentally, and just continuing to help people, giving back. And I would love to see our country in a better place, not so divided. And I still continue to say this. I said it earlier. If people could just have conversations and learn about each other, then maybe there wouldn't be so much division, because we all have stories to tell. And that's why I'm not ashamed of my past anymore, because it's like so many people have their own stuff, and if they know you're struggling, they're going to be more apt to share their own story.
That's awesome. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Just a simple conversation.
Yeah. just to talk.
People could just communicate a little
Yeah,
better.
There's literal groups of people that hate each other
Yes.
because they're part of a different group.
Yes.
You're seeing that right now in the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's a crazy world. It really is.
See that in
And that's
the
the
news
hardest
everywhere.
part when you're as empathetic as I am. Like, I want to help everybody, but I want to rescue every dog.
Yep.
I don't have the means, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like just listening to people and respecting. And we all know there's lots of crazies out there too, but just being smart enough to do what's right.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for
Thank
our
you.
interview today. Actually, sorry, right before we do that, where can people find out more about you?
I have my website is just my name, ShariFilsinger.com. And that's my mental wellness. My book is also on there. I'm just going to give my regular email because I created a second email and it's just too confusing. So my email is ShariFilsinger@gmail.com. And then I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and I usually am one to tell stories. I do lots of like reels and share I'm sure nobody watches them, but
You never know.
Yeah, I know. I do have a Facebook page for my mental wellness coaching. I haven't been on there in a while. I also have a Facebook page, a Facebook group for my empty nest. That reminds me, I really need to get on there. I haven't been too active on there since I got back. So, but yeah, and that one's just called "Nobody Told Me It Would Be This Hard." I think it's called "Why Didn't Anybody Tell Me It Would Be This Hard?" I can't remember. It's bad.
That's all right. We'll make sure we link everything so people can find you.
My dog. Oh my God. I have to send you, when I get off, I'm going to send you a picture of Luna so you can see how much she looks like. Oh my God, that's so funny. She's got more white on her, but the white on the chest is almost exactly the same.
Yeah, he has 4 white paws on his chest and his belly are white.
Yes. Luna's got the socks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Make a big appearance on our podcast.
Front legs.
That's right.
Oh, I love them. I'm partial to black dogs. I love them.
Thank you very much for your time.
Good seeing you. Have a good night.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us. As always, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jenna.
And this is the Real Life Parenting Podcast. Bye.
Bye.